Hey everyone, welcome back to White Sparrow Living, Luke 12:6. I'm Wendy, and today we're doing some Dollar Tree DIYs for your farmhouse home decor. And now, without further ado, let's get started. For this project, you're going to need 3 of these Dollar Tree little fishies. Now, I only had 1 of the white ones and then 2 brown ones, but I think that works out in the end once you see this design. And then I have the long board, again from Dollar Tree, and then some nautical rope. It's going to take just 1 of these rolls, and you can use scraps for this as well. So I'm going to start by taking off the pretty little wreath on the home sign. And again, this is that space alien technology glue that they use on some projects, but not all, thank goodness. So I'm going to use my CRICUT spatula to get that completely off of there. And then once I get that off, I'm going to take the jute twine hanger, and you can just fold those in and then use that for another project if you want. And then these stubborn little stickers, you can just use your heat tool to get those off. Sometimes they're easy, but if it's been sitting for a while, sometimes it's not, and you'll have to use that heat gun or blow dryer. So I'm going to take my spackle and just fill in those holes. We're going to be using the back for the front of our sign, and I'm going to use my Waverly chalk paint in white to paint that completely white. You could leave some of that wood poking through. I think that's really pretty too for a more distressed look. So now I'm going to take my little fish and I'm going to hot glue those in the design that I want. So I'm letting them kind of overhang, and so you can see that there's 3 fish. And this is why I think it's good to have that extra white one in there, or the different colors. And these were the only colors that I did find. So I just kind of made an outline so I would know where to put my glue so there's nothing seeping out. So now I'm going to figure out where the placement of my fish cluster is going to go, and I'm just going to make a little light pencil mark so that I can then measure my sign to see how large or how small and how tall my decal needs to be. And this is what some vinyl looks like when you're at the end of your roll, and I'm at the end of my roll in more ways than one. But I'm just going to cut out the scripture, Matthew 4:19, "Follow me, and I will make you fishers of men." And I use the fonts Autumn Harvest for follow and fishers, and then for the "and I will make you of men" is Medina Script. Oh, and also Matthew 4:19 was also Autumn Harvest. So now I'm going to take that nautical rope, and I'm starting over in the left-hand top corner, and I'm just going to hot glue that right along the edge of my sign and go all the way around. And then at the corners, I'm just going to kind of take it and pinch it really tightly so that it makes a nice crisp turn as I make that corner. So now it's time to put our fish in place, and I didn't want my overflow of nautical rope to cover any of my words on my sign. So that's why I waited until after I got those words down. So I'm going to make a knot and make that knot show in the front of my fish at the top, and then just kind of let that rope go where it wants to, but then give it a suggestion by hot gluing it into place. But then this way it'll kind of flow over the words and then off of the sign to the back. But now that I know where that first piece is going to go, I can attach my fish to the side. And I use some permanent adhesive as well as some hot glue so that it won't go anywhere and stays snug as a bug in a rug. And then with the ends of my rope, I'm going to put that on the back side of my sign and hot glue that down. And then I took a couple of smaller pieces because this is pretty heavy and I'm gonna need 2 hangers so that it doesn't, go wonky, or because it's so heavy on one side, it'll stay on the wall level so that it doesn't, tip. And here it is, all finished, and I love how this turned out so much. You guys have seen me use these hooks that are in the SHIPLAP because, I'm always changing stuff out for the reveals of my videos, but I have those linked in the description box below. I also have the name and the Etsy shop for this beautiful picture that so many of you have asked me about. I do have it linked now. I was riding the struggle bus for my last video, the mystery box challenge. So I have the link down below, and I still have a couple of emails to reply to for those of you that emailed me asking about it. Anyway, I love how this turned out, and I hope you guys like it too. For this next project, I'm going to be using Dollar Tree's adhesive numbers. You can find these in the decal section. And then I have 2 sets of Dollar Tree hooks. And then I found these really cute laundry signs, and they also have these in gray tones. So I love this because it's got these little rounded beads already around there. So most of the work is done for you. Now, one option instead of the numbers that you could use that I thought about using were these cute scripture stickers from the Dollar Tree. I didn't end up using it on this project, but just know you have that option. So as always, we're going to be getting our boards ready, and this time instead of using the back as our front, we're going to actually use the front. So I don't have to remove those pesky little stickers off of there. So one thing I did notice is that there's a little bit of glue, well, not a little bit, kind of a lot of glue that kind of seeps out from under those beads. So I just took my CRICUT spatula and got that off of there to clean that up. And then I'm going to take my Waverly white chalk paint and paint over all 3 of my plaques. And then towards the end of this project, once I sand it down, you'll get to see the pretty black beads peeking out. So now I'm going to take 3 of those hooks. Now, if you're using the gray plaques or, with the gray beads, you won't need to change the color of these hooks. But since I'm going with the black theme, I did have Michael J spray the hooks black. And then I'm going to take my stickers and just put 1, 2, 3 at the very tops of each of those plaques. Now, I know I'm always filming upside down, and that's just kind of how I've gotten used to doing it. But I'm going to try turning it right side up. So we're going to flip the camera around and see if you guys like that better. Let me know in the comments below. So now I'm going to take a painter's pen and just go around the outside edge of my plaques just to give it kind of that enamel wear look. You could also do this with a Sharpie, but I think the fatter tip, it was a little juicier than my Sharpie, so this worked a lot better. So now to mount our hooks, I'm going to take a Dollar Tree Sharpie tool and poke that into the 2 holes of the hook. And then I measured on the 2nd and 3rd plaques so that I could get them approximately the same height on all 3 of them, and they looked even. And then I'm going to take my drill and a super tiny drill bit to make pilot holes in there. And they're actually not pilot holes, but I'm making little holes in there so that I can see on the back where I'm going to place a little Jenga piece or tumbling tower block in Dollar Tree terms. And that way I can put that on the back there. I'll put it at a diagonal so that both of those holes are covered. That way when I go to screw in my hook, it'll have something to actually screw into. And then I'm also going to add one going horizontally at the top, and you'll see that in just a second because that's where we're going to put our little sawtooth hanger. So now I'm going to add just a little bit of hot glue to keep it in place while I'm screwing my screws in. And they come with little screws already included in the package. So that's what I'm going to use. And then here's where I'm adding my tumbling tower block at the top. Now because we painted our hooks black, the screws matched the old. Well, I don't even think they matched. They're just silver, but I think they wouldn't have shown as much. So I'll go back later and touch those up. So I'm using my Milwaukee cordless drill, but it's also a screwdriver. So you could just pull that front part up and then switch out bits from a drill bit to a screwdriver, or, you know, flathead, Phillips, whatever you need. And I'll have this linked in the description box below. And then to hang these, I'm just using a sawtooth hanger. I'll have these linked below as well, but you can just tap those in with a hammer and won't have to do any drilling or anything. Again, I'll have these linked down below, or I'll be using the little shop icon that you can get to, I think, on your phone. I don't know. You know, I don't know how this technology stuff works. But anyway, after everything's done and dried, I'm going to go back in with my Dollar Tree sanding block to let that prettiness show from underneath, and then it's done. And here they are, all finished. Now, if you really want to use these for something heavy like a jacket or backpacks, I would recommend sticking it in with screws, you know, into a stud or something like that. But for some cuteness or just something temporary, the little sawtooth hook is perfect. I can use this for so many things, or you can use this for so many things, and it's super cute. And I'm probably going to include this in a storage and organization video that I have coming up. You can use these for jewelry, use the big ones for necklaces, the small ones for earrings and rings. You can use this for a key holder or towels. Super functional, super cute. I love it, and I hope you guys like it too. You know how I've told you guys before that some of my ideas come to me in the middle of the night. I just had a sneezing fit, so now I'm all stuffed up. But I'm going to use some Dollar Tree onion grass and then some white string, a scrap piece of Walmart drop cloth, and then some Dollar Tree stuffing. So I'm just going to fold this over, and I'm using a Dollar Tree splatter pan lid just for the circle. You could use a plate or whatever, something round, just to make a round little circle here. And then I'm just going to cut that out, both pieces at the same time. And these scissors, they pretty much go through anything. If you've been watching my videos for any length of time, you know I cut through everything, including wire, and I'll have these linked. It's a similar set, but I'll have them linked in the description box below. So anyway, I'm going to thread my string onto my big eyed needle and then poke that into the middle of my piece of drop cloth. And then I'm going to let a little tail hang out and then put a knot in there so it stays in place. And then I'm going to go back and forth and leave some out. Now I've doubled the string, so I'm leaving about, I don't know, 2 inches, just whatever. I'm just eyeballing it and leaving those out. So I'm going to do that 3 times, and then I'm going to put a knot in the back so that it stays in place. And then once I get that cut off on the other side, I'm going to cut those loops so I have a few little pieces sticking out. You guys are going to laugh when you see what this is, and I don't know why I think it's so cute, but I think it's adorable, and I've never seen this before, so I don't know, maybe it's an original. It's a Wendy original. So I'm just going to gather that up, and then I'm going to take some more of that string and wrap it around that. And I'm trying to make like a little small ball, but not really, kind of a mushy ball. And then I'm going to stick that onion grass in there. I just cut off 3 of those, 2 or 3. I think I end up using 3 in each one. I stick that into the batting and then wrap that string around and make it tighter, and then just put that into a knot. Originally I put a little bow, but it was too busy, so I just cut that off. But look what it is. It's a little shallot or green onion or whatever. I don't know why. I had to make this when it came into my brain. So anyway, I'm going to use this in another setting, so you'll see it again. But as you can see here, I'm cutting off the excess fabric at the top, but I really liked how it was kind of frayed, so I'm going to go back and fray those. And that's it. And I just think this is so adorable. You could put this in a dough bowl or on a tiered tray, something. Oh yeah, and then I also frayed the little strings, a couple of them at the bottom. So isn't that so cute? And I'll show you what they look like all done. So I think these are pretty adorable just sitting there by themselves, but I don't know why I'm just giggling. I just think they're super cutie patootie, but they look so farmhouse, and I don't know. You guys, this is so easy, but don't you think they're adorable? I don't know why they make me giggle. Anyway, I love them and I hope you like them too. So now I have this really pretty arrangement in some kind of porcelain or china. I don't know what it is, but it's my aunt had this on her dining room table for a long time. It's got a little dust in there. I have it sitting on one of my shelves in the living room, but I've always loved this and I'd always planned to do this project, but just never got around to doing it. So I have a bunch of Dollar Tree lemons, and I actually had some leftover from a party that we did. I think I showed you last time, but I'm going to take this glass bowl, and it's got some really pretty engravings in it. And then I have a little clip holder from the school area at Dollar Tree. And then I also have a stash of leftover leaves, and usually I don't like the Dollar Tree leaves, but these I thought were pretty cute. And as you can see on my arrangement, there's some leaves in between here and there on my inspiration piece. And then I'm also going to use this paper bowl to give us a filler for inside our bowl. And that's really just going to lift up our lemons, and I won't have to use as many. And it's also going to give me something to glue it to. So I'm going to be using some multi-purpose cement from the Dollar Tree to put our little bowl together and get it on that stand. So I'm going to put it at the bottom of that little clip holder, and then I'll add some hot glue to it so that it stays immediately. And then in 24 hours or so, that cement will glue and it'll be on there for good. So I'm going to put that at the bottom of our bowl. And obviously they don't match, but we don't care because we're going to paint it all one color. So now I'm going to take my bowl and add some hot glue around the rim and then tuck it into the bowl like you just saw me do, so that it stays snug as a bug in a rug. Now I'm going to take all of my lemons, and I'm just going to do kind of 3 tiers, and I'll start at the bottom. Now I didn't have quite enough. Well, I did, but I didn't want to go get more out of storage. So I did have some limes from the Dollar Tree, and this is how the lemons come as well. Now I did notice that the limes are a little bit bigger than the lemons, so it doesn't really matter, but you'll see that in the end, because once everything is all painted the same color, you totally can't tell. So I'm going to start gluing these in, and I'm gluing some onto the plate and then also onto the lemon next to it, his little buddy, and onto the bowl itself, just so that they all stay in place. And you can see here I used 7 down at the bottom, but I didn't have to go all the way to the bottom of my bowl. And then that way it gave me kind of a foundation for the rest of my little lemon pyramid, I guess. So once I got my lemons all together, I noticed there was one big gap in the back because of my larger lime. And so I happened to have a smaller lemon and I just tucked that one in there because the leaves weren't big enough to cover that gap. Otherwise I would have used a larger leaf. But anyway, now I'm going to take my leaves and cut those apart and then just hot glue them here and there in between any areas and some onto the bowl, just like our inspiration piece. And you do want to be kind of careful with your hot glue because once we do paint it, any hot glue will show. So you just kind of got to go through afterwards with your tweezers and get all those hot glue strings out of there. So I used Krylon's Fusion All-in-One Paint and Primer, and this is in the color Matte Clamshell. And I'm just gonna paint this. I gave it a few coats just to make sure everything was covered. And I think the best way to do this is to turn it upside down first and just get those undersides, because once I painted it from the top, you know, it was still tacky and I had to wait for it to completely dry before I was able to turn it upside down and get those little areas that weren't quite covered, and you can see a teeny bit of the yellow poking out. But this is such a pretty color and I didn't even know I had it. I don't know what we had it for. I think maybe we grabbed some white and it happened to be in there, but I'm so glad I did because it's just the prettiest shade of off-white and looks like a porcelain piece, or, you know, again, I don't know what this is made out of, but it looks really good. And then once I got it painted, I'm going to use my Rust-Oleum clear gloss. Well, this says gloss clear, but you know what I'm saying, just to make it shiny and look like the inspiration piece. And here it is all finished, and I think this is so pretty. I was really surprised at how much it actually looks like a porcelain piece or some kind of pottery, you know what I mean. I'm still going to be using my original one that belonged to my aunt, but this is the perfect replacement, or you know, something that you can do in lieu of the other one at a fraction of the cost. And I'll show it to you with the original piece on my shelf and then replace it with this one. But this is a super economical way to get a high-end looking piece. I love this and I hope you guys like it too. For this next project, I'm going to be using 2 of these ever popular plastic garden fences from the Dollar Tree. I'm also going to be using this wood round. This is from Valentine's Day, but it's the perfect size. So I'm going to take off the jute twine, and you see there's a big hole in there, but that's not going to matter because I'm going to cut this off just a little bit and that hole will go with it. So I'm going to kind of curve my fence, and there's a little channel down at the bottom where my wood round will fit right inside, except there's these little lines in it, or little pieces that I need to get out of there so that it'll go all the way around my wood round. So I'm just going to take my craft knife and poke it down along those sides, and then with some needle nose pliers I'm going to pull those out, and then that way the edge of my plaque will fit right in there and it nestles it perfectly. So once I get those little pieces out, I'm going to wrap it around, and I don't know if you can tell, but I'm using my fingernails to mark the spots where I need to cut my piece. So I'll go back and make a line and then take it outside to cut it down with my miter saw. So now I'm going to take my CROP-O-DILE and put holes into my plaque. And this thing will go through anything. There's two different sizes of holes, but I'm going to do them on the two corners, and then I'm going to mark where it comes, well, like where one of those cross beams are, so that I can attach it with some nylon zip ties. And then I'm going to go back in with my permanent adhesive into that channel so that when I put it around my plaque, it's going to stay once it cures. But you probably don't even need this because I'm going to attach it with my nylon zip ties and then just pull those snug as a bug in a rug. Now I had to have a second set of hands, so Michael J helped me out on this and trying to explain what I needed him to do. It was funny, especially since my camera was behind us and now it's in the way. But anyway, he was a trooper and he has a little boo-boo on his hand from some work that he was doing. But anyway, I'm just gonna make those super tight and then cut off the excess. And I left my legs on there thinking that that would help me when I painted it, but I'm not going to use those legs. They're too flimsy. I've done a project sort of like this before and they gave out after a couple of weeks. So you definitely, you can put different legs on them, or you can do what we're going to do in just a second. So once I got that all attached, I took that second garden fence and I'm gonna put it in the back and do the same thing. Just add those zip ties everywhere you can. You could make another hole in the back right in the middle and attach that one as well. But because I'm going to be cutting off that leg, I knew it wasn't going to really be there. So I took on the sides, I put the zip tie through those back holes where I had already attached it. So there's actually two zip ties going through one hole. You see what I'm doing here? And then I'll go up the sides and attach the sides to the one that we wrapped around the wood. You see what I'm saying? Again, this one's hard to explain. And then once it's all together, I'm going to take my wire cutters and cut everything off, including the excess sides of that back one. And then I'm going to take those two. You could get a third one and then it won't be broken and you can just have one piece. But I just put them together. And again, this is all going to get painted, so you're not going to really notice this. But I'm going to glue those together and make one piece to go above right in the center of the back. And then I cut off all of the little excess pieces that we didn't need. And I left the legs on this one just to keep it straight and also to give me another piece to attach with the nylon zip ties. So I started to paint this with my white chalk paint, but it was taking forever. And so because it's black, I wasn't going to distress this. So I went ahead and had Michael J paint this completely white using my Krylon matte white spray paint. And then once it was done, it didn't hit all of the areas. So I went back in with my white chalk paint just to give it that prettiness, and so that I didn't have to see any of that black on the insides either. And then that took me forever. So when I was done, I was so happy. But then, being a glutton for punishment, I decided to go ahead and put it on a pedestal. So I used this Dollar Tree plastic bowl. I'm going to turn it upside down and I'm going to paint this in that same white. And then, doing the same thing that you always see me do, I'm going to add my permanent adhesive as well as some hot glue and attach my piece on top of this. And I love how this turned out, and I really had to have a place to put my pretty scallions in to display them. So I can't wait for you guys to see how I end up staging this. So first I placed a little Dollar Tree pedestal that I made using a round mirror and a candlestick. on one corner. And then I made these little coasters from Dollar Tree. What did I make these from? I forget, but I made these coasters a while back. I'm going to place those on the other side. And then I have two old antique books that I placed right in between. And then a plant is going to go on my pedestal. And then my adorable little scallions are going to go on the coasters. That was just a lifter. I put one up on the top of that and then the other one kind of leaning against it. And I made sure to let those little strings hang out so that you could see what they were. And then I have this little bird that I'm going to stick in there. And I actually ended up switching this around so everything is, the scallions are on the other side and the plants on the other side. You know, I switched those up because the lighting was a little bit better. But anyway, here it is, all finished, and I am in love with this. I think it's so pretty. It took a little time because of that painting issue. You could leave this black, but I think it's so much prettier in the white, and you can see all the pretties behind it with all the neutrals and the softness and my adorable little onions. But anyway, you can also use it to showcase other items too. I've done a few different displays in it already. I love it so much. I hope you guys like it too. I hope you enjoyed all of these projects, and if you did, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, comment, let me know what you think. If you're not already, I hope you'll consider hitting that subscribe button down below and the little bell right next to it so that you can be notified every time I upload a brand new video. I hope everyone has a blessed day, and remember to always be the light. Bye.